Hello there, lovely people, it's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be talking all about why Nintendo shouldn't be giving up on the idea of a virtual console, or more specifically a virtual console type system, because they've said it's dead, so you know what I mean. Basically, buy retro games on new systems, that's the thing. Okay, so throughout this video, if I say virtual console, or the virtual console, or Switch virtual console, or anything like that, I don't necessarily mean something with the name virtual console, because Nintendo have said that's dead. I just mean a service like the virtual console. Let's just get that out of the way. This is by no means a new argument, and it's something that's come up a lot in the past, and we've even touched on it a little bit here and there ourselves, but nothing else is happening and we gotta talk about something. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling, let's dive right into things. So Nintendo's made it pretty clear that with the Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online thing, that Virtual Console is kind of put on the back foot. There's no sort of service in mind, and there's certainly not one at the moment beyond things like the Neo Geo and the ACA Arcade Archives, and so, you know, it just doesn't really seem to be a priority for Nintendo at the moment, except they're releasing some new NES games every so often, and it's free if you got Nintendo Switch Online. So why would they bother trying to release all these old games they've got when they've got a few of them out there from their oldest system, at least their oldest home console, when they could just sort of bumble through and do new games and spend more time on that? Well, for one thing, Nintendo has got a lot of games that it can pull from in its library. No, I mean like a lot of games. You can argue time and time again that everybody's played Super Mario World, why would they want to buy it again? And yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, and to be honest, I think the further back you go, just due to the laws of time and space and stuff like that, the more people will have played the older games, because they've been around for longer, and generally they're sort of cheaper and easier to get hold of. But there's still a lot of systems out there that Nintendo made games for, arguably some of their best games, that don't really have any sort of convenient method of play, at least in an official capacity, and even, to be honest, in an unofficial capacity. Yes, I'm talking about the big boys themselves, the N64 and the GameCube. I couldn't find my N64 in time. The N64 has had a couple of bits and bobs out on the Virtual Console, on things like the Wii and the Wii U, but generally, there aren't that many instances. I mean, they had the Zelda games, they had Super Mario 64 and all that sort of thing. But there are so many other N64 games that just haven't been touched. And I think that something, you know, sort of a unified virtual console system that could play these N64 games, and indeed the GameCube, but we'll get onto that in a minute, calm down, could be absolutely massive, because suffice to say, the N64 is a bit of a sod to emulate. Or at least that's what I've read on the internet. They wouldn't lie to me, would they? It's something to do with the architecture, it's really weird, and unless you go down the sort of the hardware emulation road, software emulation is still a little bit wobbly, and as far as I know, in terms of the development scene, from an unofficial standpoint, there's not a lot of interest in making a sort of a really robust N64 emulator, simply because there's not that much interest out there. People have managed to get the big games running, and running very well, like Super Mario 64, Zelda games, all that good stuff, and even, you know, things like Banjo-Kazooie. So why would they bother with all the other great games like Tetrasphere? Nobody understands their systems quite like Nintendo, so I'm sure with the right backing and the right money behind it, they could I say easily, but they could very successfully, shall we say, get some sort of unified N64 emulator, and they could even get third parties involved, like, you know, Konami like releasing old stuff, don't they? And, you know, you can get Capcom involved, they could release another Street Fighter game. I know that wasn't on the N64. Was there a Street Fighter game on the N64? I really don't know. There was that crap Mortal Kombat game, but that's not Capcom. And the same goes arguably double for the GameCube, which is incredibly useful and a really lovely system and super convenient to hold thanks to its useful handle, but it doesn't have a sort of sensible way of outputting to an HDMI screen, or even any kind of flat screen really. You've got to go composite, or you can go, what is it, composite? You can do component as well, but the component cables are rare, like, not rare, where rare? And even then, the results aren't brilliant because it's still an analog signal. You can get adapters that convert it to HDMI, but they are very niche, and realistically, you know, would it not just be easier to play GameCube games on your Switch? The answer is yes. But Alex, I hear you cry, there's no market for that kind of thing anymore because everything's available freely to download if you know the right sources through the nefarious thing called the internet. It's illegal, but it works. Yes, piracy and the internet go hand in hand, and realistically, it is easier than ever to download pretty much any game you want. They're out there, you know, there's multiple different sources. You can just go and get your hands on it. Now, we're by no means saying that you should do that. If anything, we're saying it's a bad thing because it's piracy, and that done gone been a bad thing. But Nintendo's in a really interesting situation here, because if they did go in the direction of the virtual console, or whatever you want to call it, you know, just Nintendo Switch old games, we'll maybe call it that. We won't. They can provide these games in a legal manner for people to be able to play on their latest Nintendo system, comfortably, on a TV, and on the go. It just seems like a no-brainer. But why would people pay for it when they can do it for free, even if it's a little bit illegal and against the policemen? There are definitely going to be some people that will actively prefer to pirate games and play them illegally because it's sort of like going, haha, I'm doing a thing for free, aren't I? Aren't I an internet sensation? But for the average person, they just want to be able to play the game, and if Nintendo can offer it in a more convenient manner, even if they have to pay, I think people would probably do it, as long as it was reasonably priced, absolutely. Wouldn't you? I mean, a great example is Netflix. It has merely a fraction of the titles and the TV shows and the films available to be watched that you could comparatively get from some sort of dodgy website, which basically has everything, but Netflix offers a better service. And for the average person, do they really want to sort of try and find a dodgy website that's probably going to try and give them a virus, download something that they don't fully know what it is until they open it, or are they going to be able to watch it freely, comfortably, easily, streamed over the internet via a service that really doesn't cost that much overall, and just, you know, be able to play on multiple devices? There's no sort of chances of a dodgy download. It's always going to be in really good quality. Yeah, people will. That's why Netflix is so popular. Admittedly, things have changed recently, and because the market has become fragmented, there's, you know, sort of arguably a lot of distrust amongst it, and, you know, sort of people are sort of losing the will with it because, you know, you buy Netflix and then you need Amazon Prime for some things, and then the Disney's having their own one coming out soon that I think is like named after us or something, and overall it's bad. You know, people don't want this fragmented thing, but Nintendo, no one else is going to be releasing Nintendo games, are they? Because Nintendo done own them. Honestly, in my head, I really don't know why it hasn't already been done. I mean, the Switch is a perfect platform. You know, you had the 3DS stuff, you had the Wii U stuff as well, and the Wii, and did the DS get any virtual console? I don't even know. DSi did though, didn't it? Didn't it? The Switch unifies all of that, so you can play your Game Boy games, you can play your Game Boy Color games, you can play your Game Boy Advance games, and you can play them all on the go! But more importantly, you can play other games for other systems that have never had proper virtual console support and are not really able to be played, you know, at least properly and legally, without resorting to the older hardware that is maybe just not as convenient. And I think that's the big thing. Convenience. People enjoy convenience. It makes life easier because that's literally what the word means. There are always going to be people that will prefer to do everything without spending a penny. There are always going to be people who prefer to use the original hardware and will fork out shed loads for a little adapter to make sure it goes out HDMI without any lag. There is always going to be people that are exceptions to the rule. But I think for most people, who doesn't want to be able to play classic games on their current system that is supremely convenient, and realistically, if you're only playing old games, would probably have a pretty decent battery life as well. I can see Nintendo doing something like Nintendo Switch Online, Nintendo Entertainment System, blah blah blah, playing the old NES games as they have done with, say, like the SNES and maybe even the Game Boy, some of the really old games that people just probably weren't even downloading on the Wii U and the 3DS because they are so old that most people have already played it. Again, there will always be exceptions, and I could be entirely wrong because I haven't seen the sales figures, but that's what I'm assuming. But the opportunity to play especially something like GameCube games and maybe even going into Wii games, although I don't fully know whether that would work, just seems like a really strong and excellent opportunity. Imagine being able to, much like they have in China, with the Switch, you can download Wii games that have been adapted for the Switch onto it. No, it's not on the Switch in China. What is it? NVIDIA Shield. Haha. Same principle though, because it's just like normal controls. You can get Galaxy and some others. I'd say it's more than doable as an idea, and to be honest, I think Nintendo would be mad to miss out on anything like that, because it's a huge potential sort of goldmine of games that only really need to have some sort of wrapper around them to make them work properly. Slam them out. It's no effort at all. It's some effort. Charge 10 quid for a GameCube game. Boom! You're golden. People are playing the GameCube games, they're playing the games that they love, they may be playing games that they never played before, that are absolute classics like Eternal Darkness, you need to play it, and they're doing it in the comfort of their own home, and also Nintendo are selling a game that they aren't really able to make any money off otherwise. Maybe there are issues with the original files, but I doubt it, to be honest. You could probably just rip a disc, couldn't you? Oh no. Nintendo, you've got an entire library, an entire history of games out there that are lying dormant that you could be making money off. Why aren't you? Come on. Use your noggin. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you talk to that subscribe button as though it can actually hear you. And be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Netflix just offers, arguably a fraction of the media and stuff like that, and, or any other streaming service that you like, really. For, all of these things, start that again, that was terrible.